1994 saw a punk explosion, with both Green Day and Offspring releasing platinum albums, the former on a major label, and the latter staying on their independent label, Epitaph Records. The previous year, in 1993, RKL had gotten back together to release their LP Reactivate on Epitaph as well. In 1994, Epitaph would release their final LP, Riches to Rags. 1994 also saw a 10-foot pole release an LP titled Rev on Epitaph. This band, previously known as Scared Straight, had put out their first album in 5 years the prior year, before quickly rebranding to 10-foot pole. Ill Repute would get back together for a couple shows with John on vocals before splitting again. In 1994, a band called Fooey released their 7-inch. This was the first new Nardcore band to put out a piece of vinyl since Scared Straight or Rat Pack in 1985. They also put out an LP in 1995 called Monsters of Rock. The singer worked at Record Outlet, where bands would often flyer shows and people hung out to talk about music or whatever. Dick Circus started in the summer of 1994 as a response to much of the violence at shows in the early 1990s, trying to make things fun again. It's Alive Records put out the Dick Circus 7-inch, as well as the debut 7-inch from No Motive. The first No Motive show was also the last Dick Circus show. Missing 23rd put out a demo in late 1995 and played their first show that December at Deja Vu in Montalvo. A whole scene of bands would rise up around the same time from Ventura, such as the Whatnots, Patient Zero, Exxon OD, The Goods, and the Unabombers. One of the bands from this scene, the Coathanger Kids, put out a 7-inch in 1996, and another, Peter Pan's Army, put out a 7-inch in 1997. In 1995 and 1996, 3 bands emerged from South Oxnard to put out demos: Burning Dog, Clenched Fist, and FAY. 2 of these bands were also featured on the 1996 compilation LP on It's Alive Records titled Localism, which documented a ton of local bands in the area onto wax. It also featured new songs from Ill Repute, now with Tony on vocals, and Stalag, dropping the 13 from their name, back with a new singer. A band named Pig Alley was also on this record and would release their LP the same year, titled Rock and Roll Mafiosi. 1996 also saw the birth of Edge Records, started by Joey Lipke, one of the early Stalag 13 drummers. In 1996, Edge Records released the No Motive Cynical CD, the Stalag CD Conviction, and the Burning Dog Psycho-Babble-ology 7-inch. Burning Dog also put out a CD on Edge in 1997 titled Last Days. So did Ill Repute, who released their CD in 97 called Bleed. No Motive signed with Vagrant Records and released their debut LP for that label titled And the Sadness Prevails in 1998. They pioneered a sound that they described as sadcore and would go on to be a national touring act for the next handful of years, touring with the likes of Alkaline Trio, Face to Face, Saves the Day, and Blink 182. They released 2 more full-lengths, Diagram for Healing in 2001 and Daylight Breaking in 2004. Another band of the sadcore genre was The Whereabouts, who would release a demo and CD in the late 90s and continue on into the 2000s, putting out music and playing shows. It should be noted that while there was a lot happening in the scene in the mid-90s, there wasn't a consistent venue in Oxnard or Ventura. Deja Vu changed their name to Horseshacks and had several shows, but other than that, there were no venues in Oxnard or Ventura that had longevity. Much of the scene was based out of a club in Goleta, California called The Living Room, which was an all-ages collective that was supportive of all types of underground music. And also The Pickle Patch, a literal living room in Isla Vista, California. In 1997, a laser tag spot in Oxnard called Laser Star started having shows in the Party Room. Also in 1997, Voice of Defiance released a 7-inch titled Oxnard Hardcore Pride. And in 1998, Stand Your Ground put out a demo and a 7-inch. Laser Star was the home base for these bands, and the members and their friends put on shows featuring national and international acts. There was also a bond fostered with some kids from Ojai who put on a handful of shows in a barn out there. Ojai would also be critical for the scene in the early 2000s.